Hi.
I I find it difficult during the meditation here to that I mean it is a matter of noticing how, because my eyes follow where I should focus on.
Mm,
Oh, and then it follows, but it is kind of I cannot, because I have the sensory in my meat suit. So I
mm,
have difficulties of thinking that where am I? And if, the term is that there is no I.
mm.
So, but I still have the sensory. I've trouble of placing it because I do have these sensations, but I can see that it is a buzzing feeling, and I know that I can't really feel in what directions my toes are or my knees are.
Yeah.
It's just expectations of what I
Yes.
assume would be there when I
Yes.
open the eyes. But I still have this meat suit, or yeah, I
Yeah.
have this meat
Yeah.
suit, but there
Yeah.
is still this meat suit. So
Yeah.
what to think about that?
Well, I'm really, really happy you're bringing it up because when we talk about non-self and we talk about no self, it's more an antidote to all the identification that we do. It's more to be aware of that all that identification is happening, and with the feathers, these are the 10 different ways that we identify. Um, so it's more a direction to look that there is no one who is experiencing all this. There's no one that can identify. That is just a part of the brain where 5 different roots of the brain are meeting, and that is creating that feeling of a separate self, of a sense of a self. That is where time and the physical experiences and expectations and all of that is meeting in one part of the brain. And that part, because that part is there, we have a feeling that I am a separate self. So when we talk about non-self, it's just to make you aware that that is just a delusion. In reality, there are 10 different ways that we identify because of the meat suit, because of the way that things are put together, that that then we identify in those 10 different ways. But it doesn't mean that there is a separate self anywhere. So the non-self is meant as an antidote to be aware of identification. It's not meant to be a new concept. It's not meant to go in and say, so because there's no self, I can't feel my body. Yes, you can, because you have a meat suit and you have receptors in your entire meat suit. And those receptors are giving messages to the brain that perceive that something is happening at the end somewhere. What we're doing with the exercises is just making you aware that when you sit and you have a feeling of my foot, that is part of the delusion.
So it's a foot.
Well, yeah, you can say that it's a foot. Um, on
I
another,
know not
yeah, exactly,
substance really
exactly.
because it is just felt
There's a
substance
density
in
there's a
these.
density in the field. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's a density in the field, and there are certain sensory experiences that are being picked up. And we have the 5 senses, and everything you experience can only be experienced in one of those 5 senses. It can either be seen, heard, smelled, taste, or touched. It's the only 5 senses that we have. On top of that, those 5 senses, they have a little appendix where a thought is added to it. So it feels like, for example, if I say elephant, you get a mental image of an elephant. So you see a mental image. That is the thought that is creating that. There's not an elephant in your room. So we have a little appendix of thought attached to all of it. And because we can attach a thought as a little appendix to the 5 senses, we get the ego goes in and go like, oh, I did that. I made a little elephant in my head. My elephant was much better than all your other elephants out there. My elephant was much nicer. That is just the ego that is doing that. But again, it's just another layer of identification that is not real at all. So it's,
But then I
yeah,
don't, what should I do with all these thoughts that I have? I know that, I
slow
mean,
down and really look at them, because you have, when in the first theta, when we work with identification with thought, the frustration that you sit with right now is beautiful, because that is where you start to become aware of, oh my goodness, all of these thoughts are happening. I thought my thoughts were important. I thought that when I have a thought and it makes me sad, that feeling is important. That when Janice tell me something in the office and I get really, really annoyed, and that feeling of annoyance is important, because I need to protect myself. I need to stand up for myself. I need to fight Janice and go to HR and all of that. All of that, it's just thoughts. It's just thoughts. And becoming aware of that can be quite um, overwhelming, because there is not a single thing going through your head that is of use. If you have a thought that is of use, it's going to be very, very clear. It's like stepping out to the road when a car is coming. You have a feeling, don't do that, or run back, or something like that. Those thoughts are very, very rare. The majority of thoughts we have are absolutely pointless. It's just like, there's a cloud over there, there's a dog walking there, you know, absolutely pointless. It's more an observation. And when you really slow down and you pull yourself up to the fifth floor and you just observe what is happening, you hear your mind going as a chatterbox. And the most crazy thing is that it's talking to itself as if there's another person. The mind is having conversation with itself, as if there are two people in there having a conversation, and you're sitting and observing those two people having a conversation. It's the most bizarre thing. And none of them are right. It's like the two old men in the Muppet Show sitting up, they're commenting everything. You know?
yeah.
It's not real or relevant at all. It's just a commentary. But it feels real, and the mind is jumping between conversations that it's having with itself, and with lots of different things which you don't even notice, and suddenly it says something where you go like, oh, because you have a sensory experience of something, you have a feeling in the body of something. Somebody says something to you and you have a thought about, that wasn't kind. And whoop, that can be felt in the body right away. That wasn't kind. Why are they not kind to me? They should be kind to me. And then you start with all that was activated by that feedback loop that we're talking about. But in itself, it was just another person saying something. That was it. End of story. It's the shortest movie in the world.
Good. Okay.
Did it clarify?
Yes, it does. And but it's still strange to have this feeling that it is of no relevance and it can just be let go. And
But what is the resistance to it? Because when you see, when you have that, but it's of no relevance, what is the feeling in the body about that being irrelevant? Do
but
you then
what
do
to do
you,
with me?
yeah, exactly. I was just about, that was what
Yes,
I was
yes,
poking at. Do you have a
yes,
feeling that you are
yes,
irrelevant?
yes.
Isn't it funny that we then place a seat in the middle of that, where the I that is not there is irrelevant? How can nothing be irrelevant?
But it's just that urge, not urge, that sensory that comes up is that, oh no, I'm of no relevance. I'm at no importance. I have no say. I have, it's
That
so,
is the seventh
I,
feather. That Sunni is the seventh feather creating something out of nothing.
yes, and I'm so afraid of being belittled and being
But you
taking my spot
but
in
you
the world.
are. But you are right now. You are right
But
now. You're
yeah,
right now, you're belittling yourself, and you're not
yeah,
taking your spot in the world. You're sitting and creating a story that is making you less than what I actually said. So it
mm,
is actually happening. And that is what is then important to look into.
mm.
What is that about? And that's why the second feather is relevant, because there's an underlying belief about you being irrelevant. and you doing everything in your power not to be irrelevant.
Yeah,
In, in, ac-
exactly.
in actuality, right now, you and I, we can sit, if you make a deep breath, I'm sitting right here with you, make a deep breath and exhale. And then you just feel into stillness, simplicity, and contentment. Do you feel that stillness, simplicity, and contentment?
I do, and I really feel that I'm so tired of making myself relevant.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
really tired
exhausting.
of it.
Yeah,
It is
it's exhausting. Yeah,
extremely.
it's absolutely exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. And the
Yeah.
thing is, you don't need to. You are stillness, simplicity, stillness, simplicity, and contentment. You know,
Mm,
that is there all the time. The feeling of relevance or irrelevance or ability or non-ability or all of that, that is an add-on of the mind, just like a dog is barking or a cloud is coming. It's absolutely create something out of nothing.
yeah.
In itself, there's just stillness, simplicity, and contentment. And that is there all the time. All the time. We just forget to look at that because we are so in our minds and creating small stories and dramas and rom-coms and sci-fis and
Yeah.
action movies and all of that. That is
Yeah.
dramas, a lot of dramas, a lot of sitcoms
Yeah.
uh, that is going on in the mind all the time. And we completely forget that the base tone of everything is stillness, simplicity, and contentment.
Yeah.
And in that, you don't need to prove anything. You are. That's fine.
Mm,
There's nothing to say or can or do. You are. Nothing to add. There's nothing to subtract. There's nothing that can be any different.
yeah.
And it's also really becoming aware of that a lot of the of the mind thing that is happening when we feel relevance or feel irrelevant, it's always tied into time. It's not something that is an issue right now.
Mm.
Right
It's
now.
like a constant alertness
Yeah.
for the necessity to be relevant.
Yeah. But that is a diversion. And
Mm,
for a lot of people, the diversion is, and the biggest scare in their life is that they are, significant. We're actually not. We're not that scared of feeling into being irrelevant and being unworthy and all of that. We're so used to that thought. So whenever Todd and I we sit and talk about, you are worthy, you are significant, you do count. In that stillness, simplicity, and contentment that is just here right now, where it's just being, that's enough. You don't need to do anything else. A lot of people get really, really stressed out by that.
yeah.
May I just say something?
Yes.
If you have a loop of trauma, like the trauma file is open on something and you feel less than, and it's not going away because that's something that you often bring here, then the trauma needs to be worked with.
Mhm. Yes.
And you really need to, yeah, and you really need to sit and feel all those times that you felt less than in your childhood growing up, whatever salient memories you have. If you just pick the biggest memory that represents, doesn't have to represent because they're all connected on that one thread,
Mm.
and you resolve it, all the
All the
feeling
other ones go.
response, yeah, they'll just collapse.
Yeah. It's what we're doing in the seventh feather, where we go from that horizontal line where there's a past that was horrendous, there's a now I'm trying to do my best, and a future that I dread. That completely collapses in the seventh feather. That's where we look at that stillness, simplicity, and contentment that you have right now, you can take with you. Since the past is happening in your mind, you can, in your mind, go to the past with that stillness, simplicity, and contentment and completely heal what needs to be healed. And like Leona says, everything collapses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. It was lovely.